This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This is the Roll for Initiative podcast. They're doing mini issue number 4. I'm Vince, sitting with Matt.
Hello, everyone.
And Nick.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
This is going to be our last show for 2014, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all that other stuff.
All that other jazz, yes. So before we get right into things, Nick is eager to read some reviews that he found on iTunes.
Yeah, I got 3 new reviews off of iTunes. Just to remind everybody, if you wish to give us a review on iTunes, just head on over there and to the iTunes and type in Roll for Initiative in the iTunes store, and you can track us down from there, and you can write a review, and we'll read them for good or for ill. So here we go with our first review. It's from Zombie Hands, and he says, great podcast with 5 stars. Says, this is a fun podcast to listen to. I don't miss an episode. I would not call any of the DMs experts on the rules, but the thing about OSR games is that everyone is free to run the game as they like. Right. Short, sweet, to the point, pretty much what we're all about, isn't it, guys?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We're all experts, though.
Oh, well, okay. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I got skills.
I do love those. Shh, don't do that. I love people that write in and be like, you guys should know the rules better. It's like, we're not experts. We're just fans.
Yeah, we never claimed we were. We're just a bunch of guys who like first edition, and we jabber on about it. So
right.
We try to bone up on everything that we can, but hey.
Yeah, and when you look at the people who actually wrote the game, they didn't even play it by the rules.
Oh my God, Gary was notorious for that.
Right. So by not playing it by the rules, we're playing it like the game was meant to be created, in a way.
Heck, I've read posts that Frank Metzer has made where he ran a whole game session, and when he lifted his game shield away, no dice, nothing.
Awesome.
Everybody was gobsmacked.
Oh, I think he should have dice. If he didn't have dice, I'd be a little annoyed.
He might have had dice. I don't know, but he had like no. But like no sheets of paper or nothing. Just maybe the shield and some dice, and
that's
there
fine.
You go. I thought that's kind of cool. But anyway, Thank you, Zombie Hands. Our next one is by DM Shaman, and he says, "Cool, cool, cool," with 5 stars. So these guys are awesome, or I should say in my geek voice, these guys are awesome. You're so awesome. The RFI crew have a vast knowledge of old school D&D and are excellent at delivering a lot of cool info and how-tos in an entertaining professional way. Anyone who listens to this podcast should throw these guys some 5-star reviews to show their appreciation for the time and effort they put into producing these great shows. Well, thank you, DM Shaman.
Yes, thank you.
You get 100 experience points. And 2 Electrum.
Experience, though.
And 2 Electrum pieces.
From Nick's pool.
Yeah, I love EPs. Hey. So that was from DM Shaman. And our last one is from Sir Tomas1. And he says, great mirth interspread with admirable gravitas. With 5 stars. Sounding almost like Spock there.
Yes.
Really, Captain. And he says, I've been a fan of these guys for 1.5 years and grieved when I finally chewed my way through the backlog of shows because now I have to wait show by show just like everyone else.
Aw.
The team is sorry about that. The team is lighthearted in their approach, while at the same time bringing a seriousness to gaming that helps defend our hobby from the general media's presentation of all of us as Napoleon Dynamite, rolling our little dice in our parents' attic because we can't get dates. It's a liger.
Well, the only difference is we all have girlfriends and/or wives at this point. So.
Yes.
And we don't live in Idaho, at least most of us.
I don't.
The fact that the RFI Knights are advocates of first edition is what helped me to realize it's okay if you have a favorite edition, that you don't have to quote unquote upgrade or feel bad about yourself just because something newer falls off the presses. That's a very good point. I like what he said there. It's very valid. RPGs may have inspired video games, but that doesn't mean RPGs are akin to software or operating systems. Guys, I posted to you about 3 times, and you've read my letters on the air all 3 times with good feedback. You should know how much I appreciate that, how approachable you've made yourselves. I'm a A&D 2nd edition DM by experience, but we're still cousins under the game books. I take Vince's advice every session by keeping it original and keeping it old school, but I don't do choppers. Sorry, Nick. Keep the show cranking. Get to the chopper!
No!
Get down!
No!
Get to the chopper!
Oh!
Ah!
Did you say they're doing a new Terminator movie with him in it?
Again?
Yes.
What's it gonna be? Like old and rusted?
I don't know. Is this called Terminator Genesis or something?
The Terminator, the rusting.
Yeah. That sounds like a White Wolf game.
Yes. Yeah, actually, kind of does.
All right, cool. So head over to iTunes, give us a review, and we'll head right into our show right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about the skill system, the most thing about First Edition. There is no skills in First Edition, right, Nick?
Technically, no.
Yeah.
No.
Unless you start throwing in something like Unearthed Arcana or the Wilderness
or Dungeoneer survival guides.
Right.
Then we get into non-weapon proficiencies.
Yes.
Which nobody likes.
Well, there are skills, but it's only specific to the class. You know, I mean, I think the glaring example is the thief with their thieving abilities. Those are skills.
Those are abilities, though.
Well, they're skills for the class, and they do progress as the class, as you progress in the class, as you gain experience.
They're abilities. They're not skills.
Now we're arguing semantics.
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, what's the difference between a skill and an ability?
You have skill, and I don't know. Don't challenge me.
Damn you with your English language.
You and your dictionaries.
You're in your dictionaries and whatnot.
So why is it important that we don't have general skills like later editions in First Edition? Why do you think that they aren't in there, Nick?
I guess I don't quite understand the question, like how they went to be more into a skill set type system. Is that what you're trying to say?
Why do you think the early editions don't have the inclusion of a skill system for every character? When the edition progressed, it went having some non-weapon efficiencies to these skill checks that you have to have now.
Right.
And you can't do certain things unless you have that skill.
I think, ironically, looking at the history of the hobby, I think that was a kind of a reaction to what was coming out at the time. I mean, you look at, for example, Unearthed Arcana, the Wilderness, and Dungeoneer survival guides when those came out. Yeah. And that was the mid-late 80s. By that time, there was a plethora of role-playing systems out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and many of them were skill-based.
Well, that's when Palladium started becoming hot.
Yeah, Palladium, RuneQuest.
You had D6 Star Wars by that time in 1987. I think you also had, Call of Cthulhu has been out already quite some time right now. Heavily a skill set system.
Top Secret SI and Top
Secret SI. Even the stuff within TSR was coming to be more of a skill-based type thing. Even Marvel Superheroes, which was a total separate beast as far as the type of system it was, but its basis were essentially like there were skills, quote unquote powers, but there was, it was based on a sort of percentile thing. So I'm of the opinion that it was a reaction to what the public partially demanded from the D&D game, is to include those things, that skills or non-weapon proficiencies, into the system. So I think it was a reaction to all of that.
And
just
also
what was going on to the hobby at the time.
Yes,
yeah,
Matt.
Yeah, I was also thinking, I'm curious about the popularity of like more organized play, and if that coincides with the advent of more skill systems and more granular rules, because it helps create a more unified play experience from table to table. If there are no rules for skill checks or like spotting things or a task of that nature, every DM will have their own way of adjudicating that. So when you play in one event, the DM may say, okay, roll me a D20. Another DM may be like, roll a bunch of D6. Another DMs could say, stand on your head. It'll vary from table to table. So you get a more consistent experience.
A little more consistent, a little more generic, maybe?
Yeah, it's more of...
As far as the rule set is concerned?
Right. You know what you're getting when you sit down at the table. And I think that's where later editions became more rules-based and more things became written in stone, because it creates a more cohesive play experience regardless of the GM running the game.
I also think later editions also hammered it into our head that if you don't have the skill, you can't do it. Now, I know it wasn't written that way. I think people have translated it that way after third edition with that whole skill set that they added to it, and with you need this and that. It didn't really say you actually needed it. It just said it helped.
Right. It just meant you were better at it than the average bear. That is all.
Right. I think a good example of that is where you might not have a particular skill in the game, but you can make like an unskilled roll for it. I know Call of Cthulhu has that.
Yeah.
Even though you might not have the anthropology skill, you can make an unskilled roll. If you roll a 1%, holy cow, you got it. Your high school education came through. There's same thing in the West End D6 Star Wars game. You can make an unskilled check if you don't have the skill. It's just based off your core ability roll instead of like if you don't have starship navigation, but your perception roll I think is like 2 dice plus 2, and you can make an unskilled roll with those 2 dice. So and we didn't. Then that's depending on what the referee thinks as far as the modifier. More dice added to the roll means it's gonna be harder for you to achieve.
Right.
So, I think that the idea kind of goes back to where in the original game, where you didn't have all of these different skills. I mean, you had abilities for different classes, but if you wanted to, jump across a 20 or 10 foot wide pit, I mean, it was really up to the DM's discretion on how they adjudicate that. And it could have been a roll based off of, maybe a D20 roll, or maybe a number of D6 dice based off of the ability, whatever they want. I kind of thought that was part of the charm of the original game, because depending on, at least I know from my experience where I grew up, having different gaming groups around the area where I grew up in Omaha. I mean, it's like, oh, how does blah, blah, blah run his game? Or how does, such and such run his game? And, oh, I like to get his game because he does it this way. Because every DM seemed to make it his own little thing. He put his own tastes and preferences and made it unique to his style of play. Where I think on later editions, with the additions of those hardcore skills, like you're saying, that if you don't have that skill, you can't do it. Over time, it's like it seems restrictive, and it seems rather generic. So I don't know if that makes any sense on how I explain it. But it comes down to just like the part of the charm of the original first edition system.
Make it your own.
Yeah, make it your own. Exactly.
I've noticed that 5th edition, the new one that's out there, has a lot of quotes in the book of "make it your own," which they stole from first edition. But I know they didn't really steal it. The people that had influence over it kind of pushed that emphasis on the game to put that in the book, so people understood that.
Okay, now since you brought that up, does 5th edition does it play that way in regards to skills? Can you make it your own?
You can adjust it to the way you feel fit. You don't even have to use half the skills if you don't want them.
And and the system will not fall apart?
No, it won't fall apart.
No.
That's good to know.
Right, yeah, the system is horribly modular.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's not any one system in it that's really dependent upon another to function properly. So you definitely can make it your own, and I think by taking that approach with the newest version of D&D, that also lets them say, when we are having like an organized play, these are the sets we're using for organized, but at your home you could hack together whatever you want, as opposed to like this edition prior, your home game and your organized play were going to be run identical because the fundamental mathematics involved depended upon all the other subsystems to be there without it collapsing upon itself if you didn't actually rework the math.
Well, it's funny because that just means what was once old is new again.
Yeah.
Because that was the whole idea behind first edition AD&D. I thought the idea was a cohesive set of rules when it comes to tournament play when Gygax designed AD&D.
Yeah.
So when it came to tournament play, that everybody had a common set of rules to play upon, but in your home game, hey, you know what? It's up to you. You do what you want. If you want to roll a 20-sided die for figuring out who gets across that pit and using a dex roll or whatever, go for it. If you want to use D6s and it's based off Sedell, go for it, whatever. But when you come into a tournament play, everybody's... So it's the same thing where it come full circle.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just like a pendulum that swings back and forth. It swings far in one way, then it readjusts itself, and it'll go back, and soon it'll hit the...
Sort of like politics.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for when the giant book of charts to resolve any action it becomes back in favor.
Uh-oh.
No.
Now that Matt said that, someone out there's like, aha, I knew my new book I'm going to be selling now.
Yes.
Big book of charts.
Yes, instead of just rolling a d20 and comparing it against another value, you will consult a chart and cross-reference things with modifiers.
Hey, wait a minute. Isn't that DC
Well, I
Heroes?
love charts.
Yes.
Matt just named DC Heroes. Stop it, Matt.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Just wait till I have the 2-page description on the mathematics involved.
Ugh. So let's drawing back. What's wrong with
Too much math.
what's wrong with the just roll d20 and add a modifier, minus modifier, or 3d6, add dice here and there depending on the situation? Matt, what's wrong with just using that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. When it comes to my first edition games, that's what I do. I think it's simpler, and I may, like during character creation, I like having my players give backgrounds like, before you were an adventurer, what did you do? And I might give them a little bit of a bonus, say you were a farmer or a seaman or something else. And when it comes to like maybe piloting a boat, if you were a boat captain prior to becoming a fighter, I'll give you an extra little bonus to complete anything involving that. But I normally just like, roll me a d20 or roll me a few 6-sided dice, or if I'm feeling a little froggy, here's a d30.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. That is something that's more intended for, I think, more experienced DMs, because you have a better idea of the success and failure and how difficult something would be. It's not necessarily for first-time DM, albeit it could be horribly amusing when they start turning a doorknob like a roll me 66 and you can't open a door.
You just reminded me of, there's a blog out there I read from time to time, and he wrote a bunch of stuff about a game group back in the day that he was with. This is like Knights of the Dinner Table, but like seriously R-rated, bordering on NC-17.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And the one of the DMs was like, okay, the guy says, I stopped the cart. Okay, make a roll. What do you mean? I'm just stopping the cart. Well, you're just saying you could slow down and stop the cart. You just said stop the cart. So you're going from having your cart go along with the horse to dead stop. Roll. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I'm like, that's a killer DM, man. So it's like, yeah, rolls for everything can get a bit out of hand.
Yeah.
So
it's a trick of knowing when to use them and when just to keep everything moving, let them succeed.
Let them.
Absolutely. It should be used for those unusual situations.
Right.
Not for the common. Okay, you're not going to roll a 20-sided die to make sure that you get out of the chair and don't trip over yourself.
Right. Or roll a 20-sided die to put on your tunic.
Yeah.
Maybe a roll for that situation, Nick, when the guy's dexterity is a 5.
No, I would say, okay, make a roll because, you're being shot at and there are trolls bearing down on you and you're also on fire.
Yeah.
Drastic, okay.
That's an unusual circumstance. So,
and if it wasn't an unusual circumstance for you, I would be really concerned.
mm-hmm.
That's just all in a day's work.
Yes.
Yes. I know what I've been doing lately in my Greyhawk campaign, and I gotten ideas from other people who what they do as far as like if they want to make some sort of roll for unusual situations for success or failures. I've been using 6-sided dice. I kind of borrow from Star Wars D6. It's like, okay, what's your skill in this? Let's say it's strength or more than likely dexterity. Say, okay, roll 4 dice. If you make it below your dexterity or above your dexterity, you succeed. So I've been using 6-sided dice, and so it's like I could add dice or remove dice, see if they succeed or not. So that seems to work. I like that.
If you're going to do above your dexterity, you're going to want to remove dice.
Right.
I would usually do 3d6 as the base, and then I have to roll underneath your score, and I add more dice for the difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's exactly what I'm doing. I think you gave me that idea, and I've seen a few other people do that too. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense because I think that's how a lot of times they did it back in the day.
Well, that came from the great GM.
Oh.
Yeah. The great Joe.
Yes, the great Joe DM.
Mm.
That's funny. On the Brainstorm podcast that we do, Glenn starts doing the great Joe. Like that, like how you do.
So, I don't know. It's just interesting how it went from kind of do whatever you feel like you can, evolved into like every skill known to mankind, and if you don't have it, you can't do it, to going back to kind of doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural correction.
Less is more.
Yeah, it's just like a natural correction of things. It swung too far in a direction. It'll end up hopefully eventually setting on like what the happy medium is of having skill checks for those really difficult things that you need to be trained in for, but you don't need to be trained to like jump unless you had like professional jump training, at which point you're like an Olympic athlete or something. At which point we're now in the Palladium system of scholastic skills and secondary skills.
Palladium system.
Yes, you'll spend about an hour
on steroids.
Yeah, and you'll spend about an hour just trying to figure out your skills of character creation. Yes.
I think what it was 3rd edition was let's tell the DM what to do and how to do everything, and let's put everybody in a box. 3.5 tried to correct it but just screwed it up. 4th edition just went, let's just go to left field out there and see what happens. And then 5th, they decided, let's bring it back all the way, let the DM decide what he needs to do in the situation.
Yeah. It's come full circle, man. It really has. So I think I might even try 5th edition. I might try it out.
Well, it's definitely worth reading, Nick, and trying at least once.
Okay.
I'll give you that. I mean, I enjoyed reading through it, but that's a topic for a different show, so people don't want to get here. So
Right.
So predefined skills, I don't think they're necessary, but I mean, some players like that because I like seeing that, oh, I could do this on my sheet. So,
But if you want a skill system, let's say if you do, well, you can, because you can incorporate, the stuff from the Wilderness and Survival Guides, Wilderness Survival Guide and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide.
Oriental Adventures as well.
Oriental Adventures, yeah. In fact, they have the one System of Honor that you can incorporate if you like. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what kind of game that you want, it's no problem at all.
Right. Make it your own. That's the main thing. Make it your own.
Exactly.
So now that Christmas is coming up, anybody going to be playing any games over the vacation?
Yes.
What are you gonna...
A resounding yes.
Family game?
I'm sure we're going to do if we're going to do a family game, it's not going to be role-playing related, sure. But I think over the next couple of weeks that I have off, my friend Jeff, he is got an outstanding campaign planned for a D6 Star Wars game. And I am I am psyched about it. So his setting is going to be just before Order 66 occurred. So Order 66 has not happened yet.
All right. You're still going Clone Wars then.
Yeah, it's actually we're on the brink of the Empire happening. So it's coming at the, when the Jedi are going to be wiped out. I guess our group is going to go to a world on the Outer Rim where there was a signal that was sent out by on this world that originated from a ship that was from like 2,000 years ago. And we've been hired. Well, yeah, we've been hired by the Republic. We're going to have clone troopers on board and a few Jedi on board. And I got a bad feeling about this. That I think when we get down to the planet, because the planet is being blockaded by the Trade Federation, so we got to run through the blockade. The Republic's going to do a hit and run fade so we can get in, find out what this 2,000-year-old signal is originating from, and then get out. Yeah. But I think during that time, Order 66 is going to be given. So we're going to be down on the planet with a couple of Jedi and a platoon of clone troopers.
And you're going to get yeah.
And then all hell's going to break loose. But still, it's going to be cool.
And I was going to say, any of the players are Jedi, or?
Yes, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a alien student of the Force. It's going to be one of our players. I'm playing a tramp freighter captain. So I got my YT-6 1300 modified light freighter.
Mm-hmm.
I even have deck plans all done for it.
Cool.
It's called the Emerald Star. And my character's name is Jax Nebulon.
Nice.
Sounding very Star Wars-ish.
What about you, Matt?
We're probably going to get in one game of the TMNT campaign. That's the settings like modern day, except mutants are just out and about. They're kind of seen as second-class citizens, but a mutant walking down the street isn't a huge deal. Like, oh my god, what is that? And we are been work for a private corporation, do industrial espionage. So almost think like Shadowrun.
Oh, okay.
For that.
Cool.
So we went and had to do a stakeout of a competitor who was renting a warehouse and so we were sneaking in, and my character is like a 2'9" koala bear who carries a giant sniper rifle whose barrel is longer than him. And then his two melee weapons are two katanas, which are taller than him, and he's horribly grumpy and prefers passing along messages when he stakes out things via obscure text messaging. So my character would be like, 2 guys, door open, yellow patches, tall building, now. And he would get annoyed when people wouldn't understand what he was saying. So,
are you guys using what edition of Turtles are you using? Are you using Bomb or?
We're actually using TMNT and Other Stranges, the revised edition.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not using the After the Bomb then. Okay.
No.
So your character is like a koala version of Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Except
Who hates
Moody.
Qantas Airlines.
Yes. Except moodier.
Okay.
He's
great.
incredibly grumpy.
I really freaking hate Qantas. Blam!
Yeah. So yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we
funny little
also
thing.
Yeah. We also have like there's a someone who's a squid who didn't bother paying for legs, so he actually just has his tentacles down to move around on. We also have another bear, a giant polar bear, and we're bunkmates. So go Team Bear.
Yay.
Then we also have like a crow and a ferret. A ferret who's about as tall as my koala, at like 2'6", but weighs 15 pounds. So a strong gust of wind will knock him over. Except he's like ridiculously fast. His speed's 31 for anyone that knows Palladium.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's crazy fast. But
Well, you didn't use the team rules because that would have confused the heck out of you anyways.
yeah, exactly. Because the way it was described to us, we're working for this company, but we're also seen as disposable cogs. So if one of us should die in the line of duty, they just bring in another mutant.
So
Nice.
you're a Suicide Squad.
Yeah. We're basically the Shadowrun equivalent of the Suicide Squad, and we're seen as horribly expendable.
Yeah.
That's what you should call yourselves. The Expendable Suicide Squad.
Yes. Yes, we should, actually. Because we're also about as coordinated as that.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Vince? Anything to do over the holidays as far as gaming concerned?
I was thinking about running a DC Heroes game because I just recently uncovered my Batman the role-playing game, and then when I was at Half Price Books the other day, right on the shelf, the first book I pull out is the 3rd edition book, so I think it's calling out to me.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, so I have Batman 2nd edition, DC Heroes, and 3rd edition now, so someone's telling me something.
You know, that's one game I have never played was DC Heroes when it came out.
It was fun.
I think-
liked it.
Yeah, I think I was just more enamored with Marvel stuff at the time.
Probably, because it was more mainstream, I think, Marvel. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know it had a really long and wide following when it came out.
Yes. Went through a bunch of... After... What was it? It went to Blood of Heroes at the very end because they lost the rights to the DC title. Then another company bought it but didn't buy it, and then it went through a whole lawsuit. Now it's stuck in litigation for the last, 10 years or so.
Right. Yeah, because there was all that Mayfair RPG stuff just ended up in a weird abyss of no one knows who owns it, so it's probably just going to be lost to the ether. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the old Avalon Hill stuff, too.
Yeah, Marvel Superheroes ended that way. They didn't, when TSR got bought out by Wizards, that was one of the licenses that didn't get picked up, so that whole game system is out in the public domain.
Right.
Which is why they have Face Rip and they have Force C, I think, there's 2 games that mimicked off that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yep.
All right, well, folks, I guess we're going to say wrap it up and keep it original, keep it old school, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at RFIPodcast.com or contact us on our forums at OSRGaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.